those legendary feet. When there's no place like home, anti-him, anti-establishment. With the chaff and the short straw, they'll have a stuff for sure. Anti-him, I'm anti-establishment. They took my name and the clothes I own. They broke our hearts, but not our soul.
Vulnerability and our humanity, and to show people that we are ordinary people deserving of respect. In those 2 years we have seen a rollback of LGBT rights around the world. This protest today, drawing attention to the issues in Hungary, is not unique. Even here in our own country, in Ireland, this year over June, we've seen
That's who you're in. Ready? Yeah, ready. This right. And it is telling the story. Oh, something.
Anxious about how loud I'm going to be. Very, very good. As you know, we're here today because back in June, the Hungarian government introduced legislation which would limit the visibility of LGBTQ people within society. It was a way of making sure that we are invisible, our lives and our identities are invisible in society. The European Commission have begun a legal challenge to this. And in response to that, the Hungarian government have said that they are going to have a referendum to show public support for this legislation which limits and restricts the visibility of LGBTQ people within society. As we all know, LGBTQ people do not manifest at adulthood. It is not something that you just become once you turn 18. So by not having those positive and reinforcing visible representation while you're young, it makes it much more difficult to find your identity. So we need to stand up today loudly and say that this is not acceptable, and we are not going to stand and let our LGBTQ brothers and sisters in Hungary be swept aside. So we're here to remind the Irish government that they have shown commitment time and again to the LGBT community, and they need now to stand up for our community in Hungary, and also to the European Commission that they need to continue with the pressure that they are putting on Hungary, and also to say to Hungary that LGBTQ rights are human rights, and it is not acceptable for them to try and make us invisible in their society. So thank you very much for listening to me. I'm going to hand over now to Alva Smith, who's going to talk briefly about, well, whatever she chooses to talk about.
Well, thank you all very much for being here today. It's so important, I think, that we should all be here, standing in solidarity with our LGBTIQ friends, with our community in Hungary, as people hopefully are gathering right across the European Union in similar kinds of rallies, protests outside the Hungarian embassy. And I have to say that I absolutely, as I'm sure does absolutely everybody here, deplore this most recent assault on LGBTIQ rights and freedoms. And to think that this ban against the promotion, so-called, of LGBTIQ issues to young people and children, to minors, when you think that this was tacked on to a law which sought and is seeking and will increase criminalisation of paedophilia, of sex crimes against children, you have to say to yourself that this is evil messaging in the extreme. This intolerable association of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans and intersex people with paedophilia is nothing short of disgraceful, and it is all the more disgraceful for being deliberate. And that is one of the reasons, of course, why you find that opinion in Hungary is in favour of this kind of legislation, because it is being browbeaten every day by Viktor Orban and his party Fidesz, now in power since 2010. It is being browbeaten to see lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans and intersex people as demons, as somehow evil, as corrupting. So this stigmatization and demonization, which is absolutely ceaseless, does have an effect, it does have an impact, and it is really up to us, the European Union, to ensure that it is stopped. I wanted to say very particularly that this law, if you like, or this recent ban, it is the tip of the Orban-Fidesz right-wing government iceberg, which is, I don't know, do icebergs hurl across the sea, but this one is moving at an un-iceberg-like rate right across Hungary, and indeed affecting other countries in Europe as well. Same-sex marriage was effectively banned. It's not a law, it was a constitutional move that was made some time ago. This goes back to 2010, 2011. The family is to be based on marriage. And the speaker, I think it was, of the Hungarian parliament said, this means woman is mother, man is father. Same-sex couples are prohibited from adopting. Teaching gender studies has been outlawed, and that is a move against LGBTIQ people, specifically against trans people, but also against feminists. Gender change is illegal. Trans people are prohibited from changing their names on government documents. Those are just some of the more blatant attacks and legal moves that have been made by the Hungarian government over the past 10 years. So this latest ban did not drop out of the deep blue sky. This has been going on for a long time, and it is about time that the European Union took firm action against this country, which is a full member of the EU. And all of this, as James was saying, this has serious repercussions. It has immediate consequences for LGBTIQ people in their everyday lives. And particularly, of course, but not exclusively, when I think about young children growing up with that idea in their heads that we are somehow, that we are evil, that we are dangerous, that we are to be feared, that we are the devils in society. It makes me not just angry, it makes me deeply anxious for the future. But it has impacts too on people's access to healthcare. It has impacts on their mental health, their flourishing or not, as the case may be at work, their access to housing. And it also has very serious impacts on socializing. And LGBTIQ people, we're not unlike other people. We actually like social and cultural life and to participate in. In fact, many people would say that we like it more than everybody else, but I would dispute that fact maybe. But the point is that it can be dangerous in Hungary to socialize. It can be dangerous to seek out a partner. It can be dangerous to be seen as a sexually active lesbian, bi, gay, or trans, or intersex person. And that, of course, we wouldn't stand for that for one single second in this country. Why on earth would we stand for one single second for it to be happening in any other country in the European Union? And I think that that is, or anywhere in the world. But what I'm saying is this is not happening in some very far distant place. This is happening in a country that you could say is down the road, that we do business with on a daily basis, that is subject to the same kinds of rules and regulations and sanctions and so on and so forth as every other European Union member state. So why is it allowed to so blatantly disregard and sweep aside the basic human rights and freedoms of LGBTIQ people? I absolutely welcome the stance which has been taken by the European Union Commission and by the majority of European Parliament and by the majority of EU member states, including, by the way, Ireland. I thought our Minister for Foreign Affairs was prompt to condemn this horrible law. But we have to keep encouraging them. We have to keep pushing our own government and governments across the EU to stand firm, not to give way to the extremely clever, astute and strategic Orban, who does have support among right-wing parties right across the European Union. We have to bear in mind that while the European Union has now started a legal process against Hungary on the basis that it violates many of our rights and freedoms, including freedom of expression, and just simply our democratic rights as well as our human rights, that process can be very, very lengthy and will be spun out. And in the meantime, LGBTIQ people will continue to suffer in Hungary, and that's not good enough. So we have to do more. We have to encourage our governments to raise this in the Commission, to say what more can be done, what sanctions can be taken against any member state who so nonchalantly and casually completely violates what the European Union is actually supposed to stand for. And will the European Union be worth anything more than the paper it's written on if it doesn't take stern action? So I welcome what is happening, but I say, will this be enough? Will you really stick to it? Will you take real action against this state? And my last point, sorry, I'm going on a wee bit longer than I intended. I get a bit carried away with the passion of it because it annoys me so much that we cannot afford to be complacent here in Ireland. We know that this right-wing authoritarianism and the extreme versions of it that are around Europe and the world, we know that this targets our community, our multifarious community, but it also targets women. And let me say that in Hungary, while abortion is currently legal and has been for a long time, it is under threat. There are conversations happening publicly about the need to restrict access to abortion. We know that the far-right movements target women as well. We know, obviously, that they are extremely racist and target migrants. And this is happening in Hungary, of course, where Muslim migrants in particular are targeted. And we know that anyone who is perceived as not one of us, in inverted commas, not like us, that narrow conformist notion of what constitutes a citizen, is likely to be targeted. And this is happening here. It is slow, but there is a rise of far-right groups and organisations. I mean, in a way, fortunately, they're disorganised, but they are there, and they are working away, and they do get out and protest. I'm part of a group called Rakela, Diversity Not Division. Just to have a look at Facebook and see when we're back to protesting if we ever protest again in a normal way, but when we get back to protesting or whatever we're doing, please do join and support Rakela DND, because it's so important for our community as LGBTIQs and for all of those of us who are feminists, and that really includes all of you actually, whether you know it or not. That is very important for us to stand up, be counted, raise our voices and speak up for all those who are targeted by far-right movements in Hungary, in Ireland, elsewhere in Europe and throughout the world. I hope you actually managed to get some sunshine this afternoon, but thank you for being here. It really counts, it really matters.
Thanks, Elva. I always hate when I have to go after Elva. So I was just going to read you a letter that was sent out to Pride organisers around the world this morning. Many of you might know that World Pride is happening over in Copenhagen at the moment. This demonstration that we have here today is part of an international day of action, so there are protests at Hungarian embassies and missions all over the world, including, of course, in Copenhagen at World Pride. But this is a letter just sent out this morning from the co-presidents of the World Pride Organisers Association to prides across the globe. It says, for more than half a century now, Pride events have been one of the most impactful declarations of our existence and visibility. The visibility that places LGBTI plus people at the centre of conversation and gives us agency over our lives. For visibility deconstructs myths, lies and prejudices surrounding our realities. Across the world, we have been reclaiming our space in both private and public places. Improvement somewhere is improvement everywhere. We celebrate progress, remember the past and look into the future with hope and commitment. Yet over 68 countries still criminalise LGBTI plus people. Hate crimes and discrimination remain rampant, and equality before the law is yet to be met everywhere. The challenges of our times are profound, as violent environments, oppression and racism mark our lives. We continuously question how Pride best reinvents itself. Questions Pride organisers ponder to ensure more diversity, inclusion and accessibility to LGBTI plus people, who are the Pride makers. In this quest for participation, we also turn to our trailblazers who have been forging the path we proudly stand on today. For our direct contribution to World Pride 2021, Interpride chooses to reflect and address these exigencies. From New York City 2019, Copenhagen 2021 and on to Sydney 2023 and beyond, World Pride is a formidable global event that we are proud to be part of. This flagship event empowers Pride organisers wherever they are through knowledge transfer, networking, camaraderie and a profound visibility for our diversity. Across the multitude of our identities, orientations, opinions, positions and expressions, Pride collates the contributions of LGBTI plus people, friends, families, communities, organisations and governments. It is a mosaic of identities that enables a more substantial impact where each person honours their individuality and keeps an eye on the other. However you may choose to observe Pride, know that you are included. It's worth noting that it's no coincidence that in the 2 years that we haven't been able to take to the streets to celebrate Pride and to show our individuality and our vulnerability and our humanity and to show people that we are ordinary people deserving of respect. In those 2 years we have seen a rollback of LGBTI rights around the world. This protest today, drawing attention to the issues in Hungary, is not unique. Even here in our own country, in Ireland, this year over June, we've seen increase in hate instances, things that we thought were a thing of the past. We've also seen a particularly vicious attack on our trans siblings, something that we thought we had achieved and had progressed further on. It's more important than ever that Pride be able to take back to the streets. In 2022, we have our opportunity, and it's important that every one of us who can is there on O'Connell Street on the last Saturday of June 2022 to make sure that the progress we have made doesn't roll back and that we get to move forward in our fight for equality. Thank you.
And thank you all again for coming out today, and to Dublin Bride and to Alva as well for speaking. It's so important for us to start, as exactly as Jed was saying, for us as we can before we get out again to March and June of next year, that we come together as often as we can in order to show and demonstrate support for people around the world who are not able to do so for themselves, and also to show our government and the people in our country that we're still here and we still need them to look after our interests. And so thank you very much for coming today. It's a great turnout and wonderful to be out on the streets of Dublin with a crowd of beautiful gay people celebrating, well, not exactly celebrating, but but showing our support and solidarity for our siblings around the world. Thank you.
The sign, she wants the...
I'm going to try and see this sign here. I'm trying to see, can you get me out of it in Hungary's culture? I have a t-shirt on it.
Friends of Dorothy come out off the sidewalk and onto the street to the sound of those legendary feet. When there's no place like home, anti-am, anti-establishment, with the chaff and the short straw, they'll have a stuff for sure. Anti-am, I'm anti-establishment. They took my name and the clothes I own. They broke our hearts, but not our souls. When there's no place like home, when there's no place like home, when there's no place like home.